Elena always found herself lost in the bustling life of New York City, surrounded by the aroma of freshly brewed coffee and the sound of footsteps echoing on the marble floors of the upscale cafe. Each day had its rhythm, a predictable flow that she embraced. Yet, on that particular afternoon, as the sunlight streamed through the tall windows, something in the air shifted, bringing an unexpected tension that sent a shiver down her spine. The cafe was a known haven for the city's elite, with towering shelves of artisanal pastries and the soft murmur of velvet-clad conversations. But amidst the familiar backdrop of clinking cups and hushed laughter, one figure stood apart from the rest. He sat at a corner table, a dark silhouette against the sunlit room, his presence commanding and intense. The moment Elena's gaze met his, a jolt of electricity coursed through the air, igniting something deep within her that she had never expected to feel. He was striking, not just in appearance, but in the way he carried himself, an effortless blend of confidence and danger. The sharp cut of his tailored suit accentuated his broad shoulders, while his piercing blue eyes seemed to hold secrets that could unravel worlds. Elena sat, transfixed, as she felt the weight of his gaze upon her, both magnetic and unsettling. "American girl," he called out, his voice a deep rumble that resonated in her chest. It was a simple phrase, but it wrapped around her like a spell, capturing her attention completely. She raised an eyebrow, half intrigued and half wary. She was no stranger to men who claimed to know the world. After all, being a waitress in such a prestigious cafe brought her into contact with characters both charming and insincere. But he was different. There was an edge to him that made her heart race. "Do you know what they say about American girls?" Elena replied, her voice steady despite the flutter in her stomach. She could see the amusement flicker in his eyes, a slight smile playing at the corners of his lips. It was a game, a flirtation that she was both willing and reluctant to engage in. Yet she found herself leaning in, drawn by the allure of his confidence. "They say you all are brave, willing to chase after what you desire," he responded, leaning back in his chair, assessing her with an intensity that felt almost predatory. "But I wonder, are you brave enough to venture into the unknown?" Elena's heart raced at the implication. Unknown? The very word sent a thrill through her. She had always played it safe, lived by the rules her parents instilled in her. But here he was, encapsulating everything she had ever been curious about. The thrill of the unexpected, the danger hiding behind every charming smile. "Or perhaps," she countered, her curiosity igniting, "you're the one who's afraid of what you might find in the light." She couldn't help but challenge him. There was something exhilarating in their exchange, like a dance where the steps were just as important as the pauses in between. The air around them thickened as their banter continued, a silent battle of wills playing out beneath the surface. Each remark was laced with unspoken truths, and Elena felt herself unraveling the layers of this man, Victor, as he introduced himself. And yet, amidst their playful sparring, she sensed the undercurrents of danger that lurked in the shadows of his charm, a world far removed from her own. "Careful, American girl," he warned, his voice dropping an octave. "You don't know the territory you're treading on." His expression shifted momentarily, a flash of something dark crossing his features, before he masked it with a smile. Curiosity can lead one into perilous situations. That warning sent a chill through her, and she quickly averted her gaze, forcing herself to concentrate on her surroundings. The other patrons were oblivious, wrapped in their own conversations, yet Elena felt a storm brewing within her. As much as she wanted to dismiss his words, they clung to her like an unwelcome shadow. "What makes you think I'm afraid of peril, Victor?" she challenged, embracing the thrill of danger that he embodied. She was aware of the weight of his name, the power it carried, and yet, at that moment, she craved more than just the surface of their interaction. She wanted to peel back the layers, to discover the man behind the facade of a mafia boss. He studied her, the silence between them stretching, filled with unspoken possibilities. For a fleeting moment, she thought she saw vulnerability flicker beneath his icy exterior, a hint of something that made him more than just a powerful figure hidden behind a ruthless reputation. But it disappeared as quickly as it had come. "Perhaps you should be then," he replied, his tone shifting as he leaned closer, his voice low and imbued with intent. "Because the life I lead is not one I would wish upon anyone." His expression darkened, and she felt a sense of foreboding wrapping around her heart. It was a warning, a glimpse into the dangerous world he inhabited. Yet in that moment, as their eyes locked and her heartbeat quickened, Elena felt a strange allure to it. She was venturing into unknown territory, but at that instant, surrounded by the tension that crackled like static in the air, she didn't want to pull away. She wanted to understand this man entirely, to uncover the truth behind the shadows that danced in his eyes. As she stood up to refill the coffee of a nearby table, she caught one last glimpse of Victor, his gaze lingering on her as if he were imprinting the moment in his memory. And just like that, her life, once predictable and mapped out, began to twist and turn into something entirely different. She had no idea how deeply entwined their paths would become, or the extent of the power he held, but one truth was undeniable. The enigmatic mafia boss had stirred a fire within her that would not be easily extinguished. "See you soon, American girl," he called out, his voice carrying over the noise of the cafe as she walked away, leaving her breathless and uncertain of what would come next. The question lingered in her mind, echoing like the beat of a distant drum. How far was she willing to go for the thrill of the unknown? Elena's mind was a whirlwind of thoughts as she stepped back into her routine, the cafe bustling around her. The clinks of cups and the soft chatter of patrons faded into the background as she replayed her encounter with Victor. His words echoed in her ears, a siren's call pulling her from the ordinary life she had meticulously crafted. She had always been a dreamer, her aspirations dancing just out of reach. And now, for the first time in years, she felt a flicker of hope igniting within her. As she wiped down tables and took orders, Elena found herself reflecting on her journey. Growing up in a modest neighborhood, her life had never been easy. Her parents had worked tirelessly to provide for her and her younger brother, instilling in Elena a sense of responsibility and a strong moral compass. But their sacrifices weighed heavily on her. Each day, she juggled her responsibilities as a waitress while attending night classes, striving to secure a better future. She had dreams of becoming a successful businesswoman, yet the weight of her current reality often felt insurmountable. Every time she caught a glimpse of the affluent customers who graced the cafe, a pang of longing struck her. They exuded a confidence she yearned for, their lives seemingly untouched by the struggles of the world. She watched as they chatted effortlessly, their laughter filling the air, while she remained an observer, serving their needs with a smile that masked her own insecurities. But Victor was different. There was something about him that stirred a deep yearning within her, a desire to break free from her constraints. "Hey, Elena, you okay?" Her coworker Mia interrupted her thoughts, setting down a tray of drinks. "You've been spacing out. It's not like you." Elena forced a smile, pushing aside the confusing emotions swirling within her. "Just thinking about how to make rent this month," she replied, a hint of resignation in her voice. Mia raised an eyebrow, concern etched on her face. "You know you can always ask for more hours. You work hard enough. Don't let this place hold you back." The truth of Mia's words stung. For as long as she could remember, Elena had poured herself into her work, sacrificing her youth for the sake of stability. But the life she envisioned was constantly eclipsed by the demands of her current situation. She couldn't afford to dream too big. It felt safer that way. Yet, Victor's challenge hung over her like an unshakable weight. Were American girls truly brave enough to chase after their desires? As the afternoon wore on, Elena found herself stealing glances at Victor's table. He was deep in conversation with a group of men, their suits sharp and their laughter echoing through the cafe. She couldn't help but wonder what stories lay behind those steely blue eyes. What kind of world did he inhabit? It was a realm filled with power, secrets, and danger, everything she had sworn to avoid. Yet, the allure was undeniable, and the thrill of the unknown called to her like a moth to a flame. At the end of her shift, Elena sighed, her feet aching from hours of standing. She gathered her belongings, mentally preparing for the mundane evening ahead. However, just before she stepped outside, a familiar figure caught her attention. Victor was standing near the entrance, his presence commanding even amidst the chaos of the cafe. "American girl," he said, his voice smooth and inviting, drawing her in. "I was hoping to catch you before you left." Elena's heart raced. "I thought you were busy," she replied, trying to maintain her composure, though her pulse quickened at the proximity of his alluring presence. He stepped closer, his gaze unwavering. "I am, but I couldn't resist the chance to extend an invitation." He paused, letting the weight of his words linger in the air. "There's an exclusive event this weekend, and I would like you to join me." Surprise washed over her, mingling with trepidation. "An event?" she echoed, unsure of how to respond. It sounded glamorous, exciting, yet she felt the familiar tug of doubt creeping in. What kind of event? "A gathering of influential people, businessmen, artists, visionaries. It's a world you might find intriguing," he explained, his voice low and persuasive. "I believe you'd fit in beautifully." Elena's mind raced, grappling with the implications of his invitation. Did she really want to step into that world? Would she be out of place among the elite? Or would this be the opportunity she had been waiting for? The chance to break free from her ordinary life and explore the possibilities that lay beyond. "What's the catch?" she asked, her instincts kicking in. She had learned to be cautious, to question offers that seemed too good to be true. Victor chuckled softly, a hint of admiration in his eyes. "No catch, just a desire for intriguing conversation. But I can't promise it won't lead to unexpected adventures." His words hung in the air, teasing her with the promise of excitement. Adventure was the last thing she expected to find in her life, but the way he spoke ignited something deep within her. She could feel the pull of the unknown, the thrill of stepping outside her comfort zone. "Let me think about it," she said, trying to maintain her composure, though every fiber of her being screamed to accept. "Take your time," he replied, his gaze unwavering, "but I hope to see you at the event." With that, he turned and walked away, leaving Elena standing at the cafe entrance, her heart pounding with the weight of his invitation. The prospect of stepping into a world she had only glimpsed from the outside filled her with both excitement and fear. She was at a crossroads, faced with a choice that could alter the course of her life. As she made her way home, the city lights twinkling like stars in the darkened sky, Elena felt a flicker of determination rise within her. Perhaps it was time to embrace the unknown, to challenge the limits she had placed on herself. The invitation hung in the air like an unspoken promise, beckoning her toward a future filled with possibility. Elena stared at Victor, her heart pounding in her chest as the weight of his invitation settled over her. "An exclusive event?" she repeated, her voice barely above a whisper, uncertain of what lay behind the velvet curtain of his world. The cafe around them faded into the background, the chatter of patrons muffled, as if they were the only two people in existence. She had always imagined glamorous events filled with laughter, sparkling chandeliers, and an air of sophistication, but the reality of Victor's world felt both intoxicating and terrifying. "Yes," he said, his voice steady and confident, yet there was an underlying tension in the air. "It's a charity gala for a cause I believe in. You'll meet some interesting people." He looked at her, his eyes piercing, as if gauging her reaction. "I want you there, Elena." The prospect of mingling with the elite sent a thrill through her, but fear quickly followed. She was just a waitress. What did she know about high society? Yet the way he looked at her made her feel seen, as if she were more than just a common girl. "I don't know, Victor. I mean, I can't just say yes," he interrupted, a hint of urgency in his tone. "Wear something beautiful and let me show you what it means to truly live, just for one night." His words were like a spell, wrapping around her, pulling her closer to the edge of her comfort zone. Elena hesitated, weighing her options. The safe path was to decline, to return to her predictable life filled with the aroma of coffee and the click of heels on the cafe floor. But the allure of Victor's world seemed to shimmer with possibilities she had never dared to consider. "All right," she finally said, the words slipping past her lips before she could think too much. "I'll go." A smile broke across Victor's face, a rare sight that lit up his features, and for a moment she forgot her doubts. "Good. I'll pick you up at 8, he said, before stepping back, his presence still lingering like a warm breeze. "Dress to impress." As she walked home that evening, her thoughts spiraled around the upcoming gala. What would she wear? Her modest closet offered little, and the thought of standing among the city's elite felt overwhelming. But with each step, she felt a spark of excitement mixed with anxiety, the thrill of stepping into the unknown. The day of the gala arrived, and as she rummaged through her clothes, she settled on a simple black dress that hugged her curves just right. It wasn't extravagant, but it made her feel elegant. She styled her hair in soft waves, and with a touch of makeup, she hardly recognized herself in the mirror. Standing there, she felt a rush of empowerment, as if shedding the weight of her everyday life. When Victor arrived, he looked every bit the part of a Mafia boss, dressed in a tailored suit that accentuated his broad shoulders and exuding an aura of confidence that made her heart race. He took a moment to admire her, the intensity of his gaze making her cheeks flush. "You look stunning," he said, his voice low, sending shivers down her spine. "Thank you," she replied, her voice shaky with the weight of his attention. They descended the steps of her building, and as they walked to his car, the night air felt electric. The sleek black vehicle gleamed under the streetlights, and she couldn't help but feel a mix of thrill and apprehension as she settled into the luxurious interior. The drive to the venue was filled with a comfortable silence, the hum of the engine a soothing backdrop to her racing thoughts. As they approached the grand hall, the building loomed before them, adorned with twinkling lights and the sound of laughter spilling out into the night. Elena felt small yet significant, a feeling she had never known before. Victor opened her door, extending his hand, and she took it, feeling the warmth of his grip. Inside, the atmosphere was a whirlwind of laughter, clinking glasses, and the soft strains of a string quartet. Elena's senses were overwhelmed as she took in the opulence around her. Silk gowns swirling like clouds, men in sharp suits speaking with an air of authority, and waitstaff gliding through the crowd with trays of champagne. She felt like an outsider, yet Victor's presence grounded her. "Stay close to me," he instructed, his voice low as he guided her through the throng of people. "These are powerful individuals. They can be unpredictable." Elena nodded, her nerves tingling as she clung to his side. As they mingled, she began to engage in conversation, surprising herself with her ability to navigate the complexities of high society. Victor introduced her as his guest, and she could feel the curiosity in the eyes of those around her. "Who is she?" she heard one woman whisper, her tone dripping with intrigue. Elena's heart raced as she realized the weight of Victor's introduction. She was no longer just a waitress. She was part of his world, even if it was just for one night. As the evening unfolded, Elena felt herself drawn deeper into Victor's orbit. They moved from conversation to conversation, and with each interaction, her admiration for him grew. He was commanding, charismatic, and held an air of mystery that kept her intrigued. But there was more to Victor than met the eye, and as she caught glimpses of the power he wielded, questions began to swirl in her mind. "Why did you bring me here?" she finally asked during a quiet moment, stepping away from the crowd. They stood on the balcony, the city skyline sparkling in the distance. The night felt intimate, charged with unspoken tension. "You could have invited anyone." Victor turned to her, his expression serious. "I brought you because I see something in you, Elena. You are different from the others." He stepped closer, his presence enveloping her. "You have a strength that I admire, and I want to show you that there's more to life than your cafe." Elena's heart raced at his words, and yet doubts crept in. "But this world is dangerous. I don't belong here." He reached out, brushing a strand of hair behind her ear, a tender gesture that sent shivers down her spine. "You belong wherever you choose to be. Don't let fear hold you back." The intensity of his gaze made her breath hitch, and in that moment, she felt a pull between them, a connection that defied the chaos around them. Just then, a commotion erupted from the main hall, drawing their attention. The mood shifted as murmurs of concern filled the air. Victor's demeanor changed. The protective glint in his eyes was unmistakable. "Stay here," he commanded, his voice low and serious, before he disappeared into the crowd, leaving Elena with a mix of anticipation and dread. As she stood on the balcony, the vibrant energy of the gala faded into the background, and she found herself wondering how deep Victor's world truly went. She was drawn to him, but the shadows of his life loomed large, and she couldn't shake the feeling that she was standing on the precipice of something monumental. The night was far from over, and as she watched the chaos unfold inside, she knew her life was about to change forever. As Elena stepped into the grand hall, the ambiance enveloped her like a warm embrace. Crystal chandeliers sparkled overhead, reflecting the golden light that danced on the polished marble floors. Laughter and chatter swirled around her, and for a brief moment she felt out of place among the elegantly dressed guests. She clutched Victor's arm tighter, seeking comfort in his presence. He stood beside her, a figure of poise and authority, scanning the crowd with an intensity that sent a shiver down her spine. "Relax," he murmured, noticing her unease. "You belong here tonight." She forced a smile, though her mind raced with uncertainty. Did she truly belong in a world filled with power and affluence? The sound of clinking glasses and orchestral music created a surreal atmosphere, and she found herself caught between awe and apprehension. Victor leaned closer, his breath warm against her ear. "Let's mingle. You'll see how fascinating these people can be." As they moved through the crowd, Victor introduced her to a few of his associates, all of whom exuded an air of confidence that Elena struggled to match. They exchanged pleasantries, but she sensed the underlying tension, as if each smile masked darker intentions. Victor remained ever the composed leader, but she could feel a subtle shift in his demeanor, a guardedness that didn't go unnoticed. Suddenly, amidst the laughter, a voice cut through the crowd like a knife. "Victor, fancy seeing you here." It was Anton, Victor's longtime rival, his smug expression dripping with contempt. The two men exchanged strained pleasantries, but the atmosphere grew thick with an unspoken threat. Elena watched, her heart pounding, as she sensed the rivalry simmering just beneath the surface. Victor's jaw tightened, his usually calm demeanor fracturing for a fleeting moment. "Anton," he replied, his voice steady yet laced with irritation. "I see you're still lingering around." Anton smirked, leaning closer with a conspiratorial tone. "You know, I heard some interesting things about your operations lately. Rumors can be quite damaging, don't you think?" His words dripped with malice, and Elena's stomach churned. It was clear that Anton was here not just to socialize, but to undermine Victor. Victor's eyes darkened, and Elena could feel the shift in energy. She had seen him as a powerful man, but now a shadow of vulnerability flickered across his features. "Rumors are just that, Anton. You should know better than to let them dictate your actions," he retorted, his voice measured but firm. Elena felt a surge of protectiveness for Victor. The stakes were higher than she had anticipated, and the realization that danger lurked so closely made her heart race. She needed to speak up, to support him in this tense moment. "What do you mean by rumors?" she asked, her voice steadier than she felt. Both men turned to her, surprise flashing in their eyes. Victor's expression softened slightly, pride mingling with gratitude. "It's nothing to concern yourself with," he replied, but Elena wasn't satisfied with that answer. "Seems like she's tougher than you give her credit for, Victor," Anton mocked, his gaze shifting to Elena. "Maybe you should worry about her safety instead of pretending to be invulnerable." Victor's eyes hardened, and he stepped closer to Elena, his protective instincts surfacing. "I assure you, Elena is safe with me," he stated, his tone leaving no room for doubt. The tension thickened as Anton chuckled, a cold, mirthless sound. "We'll see how safe she remains, especially if you keep making enemies." With that, he walked away, leaving a palpable silence in his wake. Elena turned to Victor, searching his face for answers. "What does he mean? What's going on?" Her voice trembled slightly, but determination anchored her. She was no longer just a spectator. She was part of this world now. Victor sighed, his shoulders slumping slightly as he scanned the crowd. "There are always threats lurking in the shadows, Elena. Business can be cutthroat, and not everyone plays fair." He hesitated, vulnerability flickering in his eyes. "I've made choices that don't sit well with everyone, and there are those who wish to see me fall." Elena's heart ached for him. She had seen glimpses of his strength, but now she recognized the burden he carried. "But you're not alone in this, Victor. I'm here," she insisted, stepping closer. "You don't have to face it by yourself." His gaze met hers, and for a moment the noise of the gala faded away, leaving just the two of them in a bubble of shared understanding. "This world is dangerous, Elena. You don't know what you're getting into," he warned, sincerity etched across his features. "I may not know everything," she replied, her voice steady, "but I know you, and I trust you." A silence fell between them, thick with emotions left unsaid. Victor's expression softened, and Elena could see the conflict within him, his desire to protect her clashing with the undeniable bond that had formed between them. In that moment, she felt a rush of courage. "Whatever happens, I'm not going anywhere." He opened his mouth to respond, but before he could, a sudden commotion erupted across the hall. A group of men entered, their presence magnetic yet threatening, drawing the attention of the guests. Whispers filled the air, and Elena instinctively moved closer to Victor, her pulse racing. "Stay close," he commanded, his voice low and firm, his protective instincts kicking in once more. The tension in the room escalated as the newcomers surveyed the gala, their eyes scanning for something or someone. Elena's heart raced as she felt the weight of the night shift once again. Whatever was about to unfold would not only test Victor's strength, but also challenge their connection. She could feel the stakes rising, the air thick with uncertainty, but she stood firm beside him, ready to face whatever danger loomed ahead. Together, they would confront the chaos threatening to tear them apart, forging their bond in the fires of conflict and trust. As the music faded into the background and the murmurs of the guests grew louder, Elena took a deep breath. She was ready to step out of her comfort zone, ready to fight for the man who had awakened something deep within her, a fierce desire to protect, to support, and to love. Elena felt the weight of Victor's protective presence beside her, yet the tension in the air was palpable. Anton's chilling words echoed in her mind, and she realized that she was no longer merely an observer. She was now part of a dangerous game. The stakes had escalated dramatically, and as she searched Victor's face, uncertainty clouded her thoughts. "What is this about rumors? Why is he threatening you?" Her voice was firmer now, a spark of determination igniting within her. Victor glanced around, ensuring their conversation remained private. "Rumors can spread like wildfire in this world," he said, his voice low. "They can damage reputations, undermine alliances. Anton thrives on chaos, and he's attempting to weaken me from within." His eyes narrowed, a flicker of anger flashing as he spoke. "He's trying to get into my head, and the worst part is that he's not wrong. There are whispers about me, about my past, things I've worked hard to bury." "What do you mean?" Elena pressed, her heart racing as she thought of the man before her. The powerful Mafia boss seemed to unravel before her eyes, the steely facade cracking just enough to reveal vulnerability. "What have you done that could cause this?" "Let's not dwell on my past," he replied, his tone more clipped now. "I've made my choices, and I stand by them. What matters is protecting you and those I care about." His gaze softened when it landed on her, and for a fleeting moment, the dangerous world surrounding them faded away. Yet she could see the shadows lurking behind his eyes, memories he wished to keep hidden. Elena's mind raced, grappling with the revelation. Victor had a history that was darker than she had imagined, and that knowledge ignited a fierce need within her to stand by him. "But I'm part of this now," she insisted, her voice steady. "If Anton is a threat, I want to help. I can't just stand by and watch you face this alone." Victor's brow furrowed, surprise mingling with admiration in his gaze. "You don't understand what you're asking for, Elena. This world is filled with dangers you cannot fathom. I cannot—" "You cannot what?" she interrupted, her voice rising slightly. "You cannot protect me if I'm going to be kept in the dark? I deserve to know what I'm getting into." This was new for her, this courage that bubbled up when she felt the urge to protect Victor, a man who had so effortlessly captured her heart. He took a deep breath, his expression shifting from stubbornness to contemplation. "You're right," he conceded. "You have every right to know. When I was younger, I made decisions I thought were necessary for survival, decisions that haunt me still. I was involved in operations that pushed the limits of legal and illegal, and I've made enemies who want to see me fall." Elena's heart raced at his admission. "Who are they?" she asked, a chill creeping down her spine. "Who wants to hurt you?" "People like Anton," Victor replied, his voice growing colder. "He's just one of many who wish to undermine me. They see weakness as an opportunity. They thrive on it. But I can't allow them to see that I care about anyone, especially you." A wave of realization washed over her, and she recognized the internal battle he faced, his desire to protect her clashing with the fear of drawing her into his perilous world. "But you care for me, Victor," she said softly, stepping closer, the space between them shrinking. "You can't hide that from me. I can be strong. I can help you." His expression softened, and for a moment the weight of his burdens seemed to lift as he searched her eyes. You have no idea what you're getting into. This isn't a fairy tale." "Then let's make our own story," she replied, her voice firm and resolute. "I'm not afraid of your world, Victor. I want to be with you." Before he could respond, the atmosphere shifted dramatically as Anton re-entered the scene, his smug grin slicing through the moment. "Well, well, isn't this an interesting turn?" he taunted, a mocking glint in his eyes. "The American girl has quite the courage, or perhaps it's just naivety." Elena stood tall beside Victor, forcing herself to meet Anton's gaze with defiance. "I'm not afraid of you," she declared, her voice unwavering. She felt Victor's presence solidify beside her, a silent promise of protection. Anton chuckled, but there was a tension in his laughter, a hint of irritation. "You should be. The world you're stepping into is not as glamorous as it seems. You might want to rethink your position, girl." Victor's demeanor shifted entirely, the warmth of vulnerability replaced by a cold, calculating edge. "You think you can intimidate her with your empty threats?" he said, his voice low and dangerous. "She's stronger than you realize, Anton, and that's something you'll come to regret." Elena felt the surge of adrenaline coursing through her as Victor's protective rage simmered just beneath the surface. This was the man she had met that day in the cafe, the one who had awakened something fierce in her. She was ready to fight for him, to stand side by side with him against whatever Anton had planned. The tension spiraled, and Anton's grin faded, replaced by a flash of anger. "We'll see about that," he spat, turning on his heel and disappearing into the crowd, leaving behind an electric silence that buzzed in the air. Elena turned to Victor, her heart pounding as adrenaline surged through her. "What now?" she asked, the thrill of the confrontation igniting a fire within her. "Now," Victor said, his voice steady as he looked deep into her eyes, "we prepare for the fallout. He's not done with us yet." In that moment, she felt a sense of unity, a bond forged in the fires of conflict. Whatever lay ahead, they would face it together. But a nagging fear lingered in the back of her mind. Would their resolve be enough to withstand the storm brewing on the horizon? As they stood together, Elena could sense the impending confrontation, the weight of their unspoken fates hanging heavily in the air. The future loomed uncertain, but one thing was clear: their fight had only just begun. Elena's heart raced as Anton's presence loomed over them like a storm cloud, his smirk evident even in the dimly lit room. "Well, well, isn't this an interesting turn?" he taunted, his eyes flicking between her and Victor. The tension twisted around them, and Elena could almost feel the electric charge in the air as she took a step closer to Victor, her instinct urging her to stand firm beside him. "Anton," Victor began, his voice steady yet laced with a simmering intensity, "you're crossing a line." The words hung heavy, filled with unspoken threats. Elena could sense the shift in Victor as he moved from the vulnerable man she had seen moments before to the cold, commanding figure of the Mafia boss she had heard whispers about. "Crossing a line? Oh, Victor," Anton chuckled, dismissing the gravity of the situation. "You know me better than that. Lines are meant to be crossed, especially when you're as weak as I hear you are." His gaze lingered on Elena, a predatory glint sparking in his eyes. "And what's this? You've brought an American girl into our little world. How quaint." Elena's blood boiled at his words, the need to defend herself igniting a fire within her. "I'm not just some pawn in your game," she replied, her voice steady despite the chaos swirling around them. She felt Victor's hand brush against her back, a subtle reassurance, but it only amplified her resolve. "I choose to be here, and I choose to stand with Victor." The laughter in Anton's eyes faded, replaced with a glimmer of irritation. "You think you understand this world? You have no idea of the dangers lurking in the shadows." He leaned closer, his voice lowering to a conspiratorial whisper. "You think he cares for you? In his world, emotions are a liability. You're just a distraction." Victor's jaw tightened, and Elena could feel the tension radiating from him. She turned to him, searching his face for a hint of reassurance. "Is that true?" she asked quietly, her heart pounding in her chest. "Am I just a distraction to you?" Victor met her gaze, a flicker of pain crossing his features before it hardened once more. "No," he said firmly, his voice slicing through the tension. "You are far more than that. You've become my reason to fight, Elena." His admission hung between them, raw and unguarded, and she could see the weight of his emotions as he spoke. Anton scoffed, breaking the moment. "How touching. But trust me, Victor, you're losing your grip. You've let your feelings cloud your judgment." He paused, letting the words sink in. "And it could cost you everything." Elena felt the gravity of Anton's threat. "What do you want, Anton?" she demanded, her voice steady but laced with determination. "What will it take for you to leave us alone?" "Ah, the brave American girl," he mocked, leaning back with a self-satisfied grin. "I want what I've always wanted, control. And you, Victor, are nothing more than a stepping stone in my path." His gaze shifted back to Victor, the mockery in his tone undeniable. "You can't protect her from me, and you can't protect yourself either. We all know your past will come back to haunt you." The air thickened with tension, and Victor stepped forward, his imposing figure casting a shadow over Anton. "If you think you can manipulate me with your words, you're sorely mistaken. I've faced far worse than you." "Is that so?" Anton challenged, his voice dripping with sarcasm. "Then let's put that to the test. Why don't we make things interesting?" He glanced around, as if gauging the reactions of the onlookers. "How about a little wager? If you can prove your loyalty to her, I'll back off. But if you fail..." The challenge hung in the air, and Elena could feel the weight of the moment pressing down on them. She turned to Victor, searching for an answer in his eyes. The flicker of uncertainty she saw sent a jolt of fear through her. "What do you mean?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Victor's gaze turned steely, the resolve returning as he faced Anton. "What's your game?" "Simple," Anton replied, a malicious grin spreading across his face. "You'll take her to the heart of this city where the real power lies. If you can keep her safe and prove that you're still the man I once feared, I'll let you both walk away. But if you falter, if anything happens to her, well, let's just say the consequences will be dire." Elena felt her stomach drop at the implications of his words. "Victor, you don't have to play his game." "No," he replied, his voice firm. "I need to show Anton that he's mistaken about me, and I will protect you, Elena, no matter the cost." Anton's laughter echoed in the room, cold and mocking. "You're a fool to think you can win against me." As the weight of the challenge settled around them, Victor took a step closer to her, their breaths mingling in the charged atmosphere. "Trust me, Elena, I will not let you down." She nodded, determination flooding her veins. "Then let's do this together." With that, they turned their focus back to Anton, who was reveling in their tension. "You have until midnight. I suggest you make the most of it." With a final glance, Anton slipped away into the crowd, leaving behind a trail of unease. Elena felt the adrenaline coursing through her, a mix of fear and excitement. "What now?" she asked, looking up at Victor, her heart racing. "We prepare," he said, "and we do this together." As they exchanged glances, the world around them faded, and for a moment it was just the two of them against the chaos. Whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them side by side. The stakes were higher than ever, but so was their bond, solidifying in the wake of danger. Elena took a deep breath, a newfound strength coursing through her. "Let's make this count," she whispered, and Victor nodded, determination etched across his face. Together, they would confront the impending storm, ready to fight not only for their lives, but for the future they dared to envision. Elena stood at the precipice of uncertainty, her heart a drum in her chest as she processed Anton's words. The stakes had never been higher, and the weight of Victor's past loomed like a specter over their future. She could sense that this wager was more than just a test, it was a declaration of war. Victor's eyes, dark and intense, bore into Anton's with an unwavering resolve. "What kind of wager?" Victor asked, his voice steady yet tinged with an edge of caution. Elena could see the flicker of concern in his gaze, and it made her stomach twist with anxiety. She knew this was a dangerous game, but she also felt a surge of determination. They had come too far to let Anton dictate their fate. "Simple," Anton replied, his smirk returning like a snake coiling in the grass. "You prove your loyalty to her through a series of challenges. Succeed, and I'll leave you both alone. Fail, and I'll make sure you regret it." He leaned back, the shadows dancing across his face, revealing a man who thrived on chaos. "I'll even make it interesting. I'll give you a week." Elena exchanged a glance with Victor, searching for the man she had come to know beneath the cold exterior. "What kind of challenges?" she asked, her voice steady despite the turmoil within. "Ah, that's the fun part," Anton said, his eyes glinting with malice. "You'll have to navigate a world you know nothing about. It could involve anything. Business negotiations, social gatherings, or even dealing with unsavory characters. Each task will test your bond and his ability to protect you." Elena felt a rush of anger. "You think you can manipulate us like pawns? We won't play your game." She stepped forward, her voice rising with conviction. "I am not afraid of you or your threats. Victor and I are stronger together." Anton's demeanor shifted slightly, surprise flickering in his eyes. "Feisty, aren't you? But you really don't understand the dangers, do you?" He leaned in closer, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. "Every moment you're with him, you're a target. I will not hesitate to take what I want." Victor stepped between them, his presence a shield. "You underestimate her. She's not just a distraction. She's my partner. If you think you can break us, you're mistaken." His voice was low, but the resolve was palpable. The tension crackled like electricity in the air, and Elena felt a rush of pride at Victor's fierce defense. "Then let the games begin," Anton said, his eyes narrowing in delight. "But remember, every challenge has its consequences. You'll either emerge stronger or lose everything." Elena's heart sank at the weight of his words, but Victor's hand found hers, squeezing it tightly, grounding her. "We'll face this together," he assured her, his voice firm. "No matter what he throws at us, we'll navigate it." As the air thickened with unspoken threats, Elena felt her determination solidify. She had entered Victor's world to support him, but now it was clear she was not just a spectator. She was a player in this dangerous game. "What's our first challenge?" she asked, meeting Victor's gaze. Anton chuckled, a sinister sound that sent chills down her spine. "Your first task is simple, yet revealing. Attend a gala I'm hosting next week. You'll mingle with my associates, and Victor must ensure you remain untouched. If he fails, the consequences will be dire." Is that it? Elena challenged, her spirit refusing to cower. We can handle that. Anton's smile widened, amusement dancing in his eyes. Oh, it's not just about attending. He must prove that he can protect you from the dangers that lurk within that crowd. You'll see who truly holds the power. Victor's expression darkened, but Elena could see the fire igniting within him. We'll be ready, he stated, his voice unwavering. You'll regret underestimating us. With a satisfied nod, Anton stepped back, his posture relaxed, as if he had already won the game. I'll be watching closely. Enjoy your week, my dear American girl. It may be your last chance to enjoy the life you know. As Anton turned to leave, Elena felt a swell of fear and defiance crash over her. I won't let you take away what I've built, she called after him, her voice strong. I refuse to be a pawn in your game. He paused, glancing back with a smirk that sent a shiver down her spine. We shall see, Elena. The clock is ticking. Once Anton was gone, the weight of silence settled between them. Victor turned to her, his expression a mix of determination and concern. We'll prepare for the gala. It's not just a party, it's a battlefield. Elena nodded, her heart racing with anticipation. I'll do whatever it takes. We're in this together. In that moment, they forged a new bond, one that transcended the chaos surrounding them. They were no longer just two individuals caught in a whirlwind. They were partners, ready to face the storm together. As the days passed, they strategized and trained, preparing for the challenges ahead. Victor shared stories of his past encounters, revealing the layers of his world that had once seemed so distant to her. Elena listened intently, her heart swelling with admiration for the man who had become her anchor in this tumultuous sea. On the night of the gala, Elena stood before the mirror, her heart pounding with excitement and nerves. She wore a stunning dress that Victor had chosen for her, one that made her feel powerful and beautiful. When Victor entered the room, his eyes widened, and for a moment, time stood still. You look breathtaking, he said, his voice low and filled with awe. Thank you, she replied, feeling a warmth spread through her at his compliment. Are you ready for this? Victor stepped closer, the intensity of his gaze igniting a fire within her. With you by my side, I'm ready for anything. As they made their way to the gala, Elena felt a mix of trepidation and exhilaration. The elegant venue was filled with laughter and music, but the undercurrents of tension were palpable. Each face they encountered was a reminder of the dangers lurking just beneath the surface. Together, they navigated the crowd, Victor ever watchful, ensuring her safety while also engaging with Anton's associates. Elena felt the weight of their stakes, the knowledge that their bond would be tested. But with every moment she spent beside Victor, her confidence grew. Throughout the night, they faced challenges that pushed them to their limits. Each interaction was a test of their resolve. But each time, Victor's unwavering support bolstered her strength. She began to see the beauty in his world, the camaraderie and loyalty that existed even amid the chaos. As the evening unfolded, Elena realized that they were not merely fighting for survival, they were building a future together. She could feel the shift in their dynamic, a deepening connection that transcended the challenges they faced. Finally, as the night drew to a close, Victor took her hand, leading her to a quiet balcony overlooking the city skyline. The lights twinkled like stars, and the cool breeze whispered promises of new beginnings. Whatever happens next, I want you to know that you've changed everything for me, he said, his voice sincere and raw. You've given me hope. Elena's heart swelled at his words. And you've shown me strength I never knew I had. We'll face whatever comes our way together. In that moment, They sealed their promise with a kiss, a silent vow that they would stand united against the challenges ahead. The future was uncertain, but together they felt invincible. As they returned to the gala hand in hand, Elena knew that their journey was just beginning. The shadows of the past might still linger, but with Victor by her side, she was ready to embrace whatever lay ahead. Love and danger intertwined, creating a tapestry of their lives that was as thrilling as it was beautiful. And as they stepped back into the fray, the night held the promise of new adventures, challenges, and a love that would only grow stronger in the face of adversity.